All right, quick market update. And I do mean quick. I want to knock this out as fast as I can, make it to where you don't have to listen too long. Um, let's see here. So I'm just going to go over a few things that I've got on Twitter here that I've been doing the last few days. Maybe not all of it, but I do want to cover some of it, like this DXY idea specifically and dominance. I know everybody's probably wondering, when is BTC gonna top out? When are my alts gonna go? And that will happen. The alts are gonna BTC might pull back just a little bit and go sideways first, but then it's going to roll over, and we are going to get an opportunity for alts to make a little bit more gain before we can wait for the next bottom, which would take a while, I would suspect. But we never know with Bitcoin, right? So let's just jump into it real quick. Here's the XY. We'll start with it first. It's clearly, it's clearly in a downward pattern, in a larger downward pattern. And that's why I draw these, just to show what the top is, what the bottom is. And, there is some similarities with this pattern in a way, how it came all the way down here and it's coming up a little bit. So that's kind of what's going on right now. If you look at the, can't remember what I was looking at here, if it was the fib, just the fib retracement or the trend based. Yeah, I think it was the trend based actually. So if we take, let's see how I want to do it. I'll start here, I'll go to here, and I'll go to the top. What we're looking at is, kind of the lower time frame 1-to-1 move would be coming down to $100. It is going to come down there, probably bounce around a little bit. But, here's what we're looking for the final Bitcoin move for the midterm. Of course, we got a much bigger move coming on the long term, at least by Q1. And so I think it's going to roll over here, and I'll show you what I'm looking at a very low time frame look. But eventually it's going to get down here, probably to a 1-to-1 move here as well, about 93 to 95, somewhere in there. But if we jump down to is it a 3-hour maybe? Trying to remember what I was looking at on that. Let me just look back at my. See, I was dollar index there and Bitcoin. Oh yeah, so I was. We'll just look at it this way instead of me drawing on the chart. So yesterday it was at what, 104. Oh, so it already rolled over. I was expecting it to roll over, maybe take longer, but basically what I was looking at was that rising wedge there, and Bitcoin put in this exact this exact pattern before the March drop in 2020. Not saying they completely match, but if you look at these patterns right here, this and this, it's pretty close. And so this rolls over, it's probably going to get under here. Well, it's definitely going to get under there, in my opinion. And so, taking that into mind here, you're looking at that rising wedge, and that's almost always a bearish pattern. And it, like I said, it rolled over a lot quicker than I thought it was going to. I thought maybe it might extend a little bit further up, but this should give our alts the push that we're looking for. Jumping over here to the dominance for Bitcoin. I just put this Krypton fear and greed indicator on here just to show, it's been like, if you put a line here, it's kind of rolling over as well. It's just taking a while. So it could bounce in here for a little bit longer, but we saw DXY just roll over immediately. So there's probably been enough bounces here, and probably be looking at, it may come down to here first, and that would give the alts one push, and could come down to here, and that might be the final push for the alts for the midterm before the dip happens for Bitcoin. And we expect, Bitcoin come down to anywhere from 30K to 40K. We don't know if it's going to be a shallow pullback or a long one. But if it's a longer one and this 4-year cycle continues, then you could be looking at 100 to 200 days of sideways action once that happens. But I know a lot of people have made a lot of money off of alts already. And, if this last little alt push happens, then I think people would be happy with taking profits and waiting until the next dip and buy back cheaper. And I'll show you that on some of the alts here when we look at them. But yeah, I drew this back on November 27th, how I expected it to come up and, kind of wave here a little bit. But again, it could just, roll over when it's ready. I was thinking maybe it come up to the 1618 first. We'll just see how it plays out. Here's Bitcoin, and I've got over here on the right side, this is Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. and wanted to illustrate how it was kind of surprising that the GBTC, it's a bit of a leading indicator for Bitcoin to begin with, but it did front run. It got a little bit above this order block here, and I thought that it was going to turn around right there, because usually that's what happens. But it seems like it's come right up into here, into this little crook, this little left shoulder, and it stopped there. I still think it could, kind of rest here for a minute, maybe retest this breakout, and it could even push up to this, which I've got as the 8.8 fib line. Could make it all the way up to the 41.65 area, but anywhere in here it could turn around. So this is kind of watch out for it. If you look over here at Bitcoin though, and we'll just bring that up into a bigger chart. One thing I wanted to illustrate is if you look back, I mean, this is clearly an upward channel, macro, everybody knows that. It's just been going up and up. But if you put a resistance line right here at this order block, this is where it rejected last time for the midterm. This is what we call the midterm cycle. And then it would roll down, and then the real breakout would happen. Of course, this is a much bigger, much bigger fractal, much bigger pattern than what this is currently. Although there is, these are very similar if you think about it. Like if you just took this head and shoulder right here, and it's not really a true head and shoulder, but it's close, and you just turned it like 45 degrees, you would get this. And I'm not saying this big dip's happening. It's going to be a smaller dip, but there are some similarities here that you could say, okay, I'm seeing some of that. And I've actually got an alert here trying to watch for the top. But just because Bitcoin looks like it's topping doesn't mean that it just rolls over immediately. Usually what happens is the alts have a little bit of a run on this midterm push, and then Bitcoin rolls over. So this was an order block near the top of this range. Basically you call it a shoulder. There's not really a left shoulder, and you could call that one maybe, but this right shoulder right here, it rejected from, and that's exactly where this rejected as well. Typically, macro or micro looks, you're going to get 3 touches before the resistance breaks, and that's exactly what happened here. 1, 2, 3. So anytime you're looking at a smaller time frame, if you see a third attempt coming, usually it's going to break. It might reject one more time like this did, but then it's going to break. And also these patterns show up all the time, right? This right here, if you look at this smaller hill and that larger hill, that's basically what this is. And then you get that pump out of there. But again, yes, it did pump, but if I was going to really compare it to something, I would say you're going to see something like that on the daily chart soon, where, maybe this is that first candle right there. Let me just zoom in here. Actually, well, yeah, I'll just do it that way. This is on a weekly chart, so it's a little bit tougher to see. But here's a big green candle after some sideways consolidation down here. And you got a couple of red candles here mixed in. This next weekly candle could look like this, where it looks like a whatever you call that, like a long-legged doji or something, where there is some retracement, but the bulls came back in and pushed it back up. So you had a big red candle come down and almost engulf that one, which would be about 40K. And then, that makes a lot of sense. We're up here at 40. Well, we got up to 44.5 or so, could even push up to 47, 48, maybe even as high as 52. And then you'll get something that looks like an engulfing candle. But by the next week or the week after that, the bulls push it back up and things just keep going. That's a possibility. Or what would happen is that same scenario would happen, except it would, keep rolling over a little bit more. But what I would look for is either 40K would be a point where it would spike down to there and then just go sideways for a long time, or for a while anyway. Or you get a bigger spike down to, something like 30K, which is where the breakout area was. And so there's a midpoint somewhere there, I would say right in here at 37. And I'm just trying to think. Let's say if you compare this midpoint of this full move, wherever this move ends up, you just go ahead and compare it to this, and you say, okay, here it went, I don't know, it went like 65% there. And then from that midpoint, it went another 122%. And so if we look at something like that and say this one went 24 and maybe it doubles, right? Because that's kind of what that one did. So double 24 is 48. Yeah, I mean, it could get up to 52 even. And if that happens, I mean, if it got anywhere into 50, I mean, that would be danger zone for sure, because that gets up into this order block up here. And I can't see it getting past that order block, not on this push, because remember, it has to push 3 times against that resistance usually to break it. And so we might get one push, consolidation a while, another push, consolidation, and it'll just do like a rising, a macro ascending triangle. And then it finally breaks out and you get that higher high that's above the 69K. And hopefully that would happen somewhere between Q1, Q2, at least by Q4 next year, I would think. All right, so that's Bitcoin. I'm going to jump over to SUI here. Somebody had asked specifically about this one, so I wanted to jump into it. And one thing to notice is it hasn't made a double bottom yet. So, yeah, I think there could be a chance that it could make a higher low here or a double bottom at some point. I mean, there are Wyckoff structures that are more of a, you know, a wedge, a descending wedge like this that breaks out. So it is possible that maybe it doesn't come back to test that. But right now it's clearly bullish. And we've had this is the third attempt at breaking this resistance. I would imagine it's going to break. If Bitcoin stays bullish for a little bit, then you're going to get about an 80% move. Otherwise, you're going to end up somewhere here between 78 and 88 cents or so, you know, because there's an order block there, there's an order block there. And it could even just come to 96 cents here. I mean, there's another area here, I would say, where it doesn't make it all the way to the order block, something like that. So, you know, there's different levels here that you can watch. I would say one of those 3 is going to hit minimum, and then you might get a pullback. And the pullback area would probably be 64 cents if it does get up into here, but it could even drop down to 50, just depending on what Bitcoin did. Here's space. I've been saying that, you know, these patterns tend to play out similarly. And you've got, you know, from the angle that we're doing here, you've actually got market structure that's stacking on top of this market structure. And of course, that's not from a horizontal standpoint, that's from a diagonal standpoint, because you can see that it actually broke out of this range here, which I've got it a little bit too low there. It's more like that. So it broke out of it and it's starting to tighten. You know, notice these happen a lot where you tighten down, you break out of it, you tighten down, you break out of it. Same thing here. So this just happens over and over. And now you've got another one that's happening right now, which, you know, it can be anywhere here. It could have even broken out. I don't know. Depends on if you use the candle to wicks or just use the wicks here, maybe. So there's some kind of horizontal support there, you know, maybe somewhere in here, because that's where that wick hit before. And now it just holds this and breaks back out. There's going to be resistance going back up. So, you know, don't expect it just to take off. But if you're looking for one of the better opportunities to buy, then this is probably it. It can definitely sweep the lows of 18. You know, I wouldn't put that past it, but which I think that's the lows. Yeah, it's these wicks down here. And I mean, I don't think it's going to happen, but there's another one at 16 here, a swing failure pattern. So just be aware of those levels. If you get a breakout above this, I think you're okay. And then from a longer time perspective, you know, if you were to, I guess you could draw it like this. You know, once you reclaim this and break above that, then it's clearly bullish. So that would be levels, as far as levels go, you know, 2350 and 27. Once it gets above those levels, you're definitely bullish again. This is kind of a different view. I showed this one recently where it was REEF, Internet Protocol, and IOTX all together. And, you know, if you look at it this way, IOTX is a little bit ahead of them. there are, I do have this thing called market structure break and order block. I don't use it a whole lot, but if you bring it up, you can see that ICP has a lot of order blocks to work through. So I don't know that it's going to go up as fast. It's going to have to chop a little bit. I mean, this is a massive move. I don't think it's going to do that anytime soon. This is a longer target, but these two are definitely within reach. It could even come up here to 11, but I mean, that's a pretty strong move. I don't know if it's ready to do that just yet. And then you've got, let's see. Okay, so this is REEF. I don't know if it's ready to make this move yet either, but this one's coming for sure to 003. I think this would be a good place to maybe take some profits because it could come back down and retest. So, just watch for that move. I know some of you might be in it. As I said before, I'm in it. Not financial advice, as usual. I get to thinking about that sometimes. Who's the first guy that got caught on financial advice with crypto? Are we just all repeating what everybody else says? Or did somebody get caught and, get fined a bunch of money for this or what? I'm sure it happened in stocks. I don't doubt that. Bernie Madoff and all that stuff. So anyway, that's what we're looking at. These will just continue to stack on each other, which is really good market structure. So you definitely want to see that. Let's see. Yeah, so it's just basically like, it doesn't really look like it here, but it's just M's and W's stacked on top of each other on lower time frames. So you might lose it and you'll create that and you'll come up here and you'll stack and you'll do like that. You'll come up here and you'll stack again. As long as this is good market structure. As long as you're creating higher highs, higher lows, then there's nothing wrong with market structure on anything. You just want to, keep that trend line going, keep that channel going. These are clearly downward channels that are breaking out now. But if we were to, if I was to bring these up on these other ones, might have to go to a lower time frame here on this one. Yeah, maybe not. So this one doesn't have much. Once you get past all this, you've got a pretty clear shot up here. So, IOTX, it may make it up to here. But again, I think you have to be careful. It hasn't made a double bottom yet on this one. And in fact, I don't think any of these, this one came close. So ICP may be okay. Longer they consolidate, the bigger the push. My goal on this is just to watch and see when Bitcoin has made its top, or when Grayscale Bitcoin Trust seems to have made its top. And even though it has made its top, it could go sideways for a little bit at the top and keep faking people out. Because what happens at the top is all of the big news shows up, all of the bullish news, and it tries to get everybody to come in so that those people that have bought at the bottom, the big whales, they need a lot of exit liquidity because they put a lot of money into it. So the only way that they're going to be able to get the best price or be able to distribute all of those funds to the people that are impatient at the top, they call it distribution. The only way that's going to happen is if there's a lot more money coming in, which I think a lot of it's fake money anyway, but they get retail to come in at the very top. And that's a whole thing. I'd have to really go into it about the fake money thing. It's just, the Fed printing money basically is what I'm talking about. So yeah, distribution at the top, consolidation at the bottom. We want to buy at consolidation. Doesn't matter if it's on a low time frame, high time frame. We want to be selling our bags at the top and we want to buy at the bottom. That's it. We don't want to be bag holders, exit liquidity, none of that. So if I bring this order block thing up here, you can see this is why I like REEF a little bit more. Currently, I thought ICP might go first, but it looks like REEF is going to. They are going to both push up a little bit, but just imagine ICP being in mud here. And so you'll come up here with REEF. You might make it to this order block first before retracement. So just be aware that it could come up to 004 first. So I would just be watching around 003. And if it gets a really hard rejection, that could have been the temporary top, and it may take it a little bit longer to get up here to 004. But the next order block's up here. And I think it actually pushes a little bit above this block. It's going to come up a little bit more. So hopefully that makes sense. Here's MUBI. I made a post on it. It's got really thick money flow right now. I think that As long as the RSI says these are RSI lines on Market Cipher, as long as they don't get under here for an extended period of time, we're fine. But if anybody's in on this, then I think we've got one wave, two waves. I think we got two more waves to go midterm. Of course, Bitcoin could change all that. We'll just have to see if MUBI keeps pushing up. I mean, the market structure looks fine so far. Here, you got a stack that we talked about a minute ago. But money flow, even though it peaks out, just because it peaks out here doesn't mean that it's going to roll over immediately. Usually what you get with an RSI, I mean, this is just, it's kind of just looking at RSI in a way. But if we look at RSI here, you got one push, two push. It's probably going to come up again. If it rejects here at the 70 RSI, then that's probably a sign that it might be done for a little bit. But you definitely don't want to see it fall below 50. What tends to happen on any coin is you'll get this real bullish market structure up here on price action, and you'll start getting this, the bearish div starting to take place, which hasn't really shown up yet. But when you get like a little dip under the 50 RSI, that's usually a warning. It could come back up one more time, and then it would fall through for good. Well, not for good, but until it's ready to go again long term. I think I covered Okay, so here's audio as well. That's another one that I entered, I guess, last night. But the thing I like the most about audio, and let me just bring it up here, and this last one I'm going to cover, and we'll just wrap it up here. The thing that I really like about audio is, I'm just going to get this stuff out of the way, is that there's, number one, it's double bottomed. So it's had plenty of time to consolidate, but there's some really clear order blocks here that it's headed towards. All it needs to do is break above 2600, 26 cents, basically. Once it reclaims that, which really, now that I look at it, no, actually we're fine because we needed to get above, well, there's a couple different wicks here that it needed to get above. I think that's why I had this drawn, because this is just a little sideways channel it might be in for a little bit. I would say once it gets above 25 might be okay. I think that'll push it up to 53. Really good move. But the good thing about audio, of course, is it's eventually going to get up here to this order block, 176. I'd like it to happen sooner rather than later, but that one might take a little bit longer. There's a little trend line here once it gets above that, and that's actually right at that 25-cent area, and then we'll be good to go. We have tested this resistance maybe just once. That's the only reason I would say once it gets up here again, it might be profit-taking time. But again, that's a really good move. That's over 100%. Okay. That's all I got for you today. Hope you enjoyed it. Hit the like, all that, whatever. And I'll do another one next week as I have time. Take care.